Well, if you're like me and you're wondering why there is a misfire on cylinder 6, and why is it that when you pull the spark plug out of cylinder 6, it's covered in oil, and when you pull the injector out of cylinder 6, it is darker than the rest, well, this is what we're going to be talking about today. So this is just a short video. This is not going to be showing you how to do it. This is just going to be kind of confirming people's suspicion on what the issue is. Initially, I just thought it was coil packs. So the best thing to do if you have a misfire, in my personal opinion, which is the easiest way and the freest way, is to move coil packs around and figure out if that code jumps. If it doesn't jump, then see if it's a spark plug issue itself. And if it's not a spark plug issue, kind of take your course, maybe do a compression test, things like that. So I did a compression test. I moved my spark plugs around. And I had a continuous white smoke from the actual exhaust that was super, super annoying. And so my brother-in-law recommended that I went ahead and replace the injectors or get them cleaned. And I have an ultrasonic cleaner, and I also have an actual injector tester. So these are injectors that came off of his 40i. It's hard to see, but this injector is pretty clean. And so when I did the injector on this car, I went ahead and put everything back together, and the car drove great. Misfire went away. And so I was like, sweet, that must be the issue. See, that did not fix the issue, because the following day when I was driving to school, which I'm an auto instructor, it was smoking like crazy. So I went ahead and took the X3 to school instead. And I started researching a little bit more and more. Actually noticed is that within this intake, if I pull the intake off, oil was puddling pretty bad on the actual turbo itself, the actual entrance to the turbo. So some of the people on the forum, which try not to listen to people on the forum because half of them are just a echo chamber of conversation and thoughts. People will say, well, maybe your turbo is blown, or maybe you have rings, you should consider getting the motor built, or maybe whatever it is, whatever that half the people on that forum doesn't know what they're talking about are going to say. So it's a little bit more simpler than that. And it was kind of in front of me when I bought this car, and I didn't think about it until now. I bought this car, I bought it about a month ago, and I bought it very, 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 very cheap, 70,000 miles, below $15,000 for the actual car. So I thought I was getting a really good deal, which I did. But mind you, this car was not taken care of at all. It's a little bit dirty right now, but I got the bumper replaced. I get some small pieces that I felt was good. I got a custom set of wheels from overseas and some small pieces that I felt were really great. And what I noticed is that this valve cover that was on this car wasn't OEM. And actually, I didn't even notice it. My brother-in-law is the one that noticed it. Obviously, I come from the 2JZ community, K-Series, like import stuff. And so I did have a German car at one point. I had a Mercedes with a twin-turbo 8-cylinder that I got rid of. And so I wasn't really familiar with this platform too much. And I didn't realize how important it was to stick with the factory valve cover. Now, this valve cover has been replaced before, along with a couple of other pieces that were replaced. But the giveaway for this one was the sticker. This was in the factory sticker on there. And so my brother-in-law actually mentioned to me, hey, that doesn't look very factory. So before I actually replaced the cover, he actually gave me a diaphragm to replace, which is going to be that guy right there. And I'm going to show you what it looks like in the next clip. He gave me this diaphragm to replace, and this is the actual run he had me replace. They weren't ripped. And so I was like, well, it might not be that, but let me go ahead and replace it to see if it fixes it. And sometimes it does fix it. But unfortunately, that's not the case. That wasn't the issue at all. So somewhere in the valve system, or the valve cover, I should say, the PCV system has failed. And that seems, at least on the pages and people I've talked to, that is a pretty normal thing on these Chinese or aftermarket valve covers. Regardless if you go get a Phoebe or whatever other brands you get, or wherever you get it from, ECS, they're all getting it from the same Chinese manufacturer, or at least one or two of them. So don't be tricked just because you go to a website that sells reputable parts like FCP, Euro, whatever it might be. They will sell you this cheap junk, and okay, perfect, there's a lifetime warranty, that's great. You still have to do a bunch of labor to get this off, and unless you're mechanically inclined, you're gonna have to pay for labor twice. So just make sure you get the factory valve cover if this fails. Now, some people are asking, okay, well, if that continues to fail and the factory might have failed before, why not just go with a billet unit? Well, not everybody has billet valve cover money. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, they're very similar in price, but Ross Racing just released their valve cover, which seems really nice. And then Vargas Turbo also has a valve cover, but that's going to be north of $1,500, and that's money that not everybody's willing to spend. Now, maybe in the future I might be considering it, but I just got a used valve cover that's OEM for a car that's had less than 30,000 miles on it for about $250. So that's, in my opinion, going to be the way to go at the time being, just to get this car up and running so I can go ahead and drive it, so I can go ahead and do the next modification I'm going to do to this car. The next modification I'm talking about, I went ahead and got a Omega 65 from Remnant. The guys over there do some really good work, so I'm going to go ahead and do an install video on this car in the future. So if you guys are interested on the performance, how the install goes, step-by-step progress for a first-gen car, I'll be posting that here in a second. Along with that, I got to do some motor mounts on this. So I got to get all the maintenance done before I go ahead and move on to the big boy stuff. Back to the valve cover. So what the PCV system actually does, PCV is an acronym for positive crank ventilation. It's going to go ahead and vent all the positive pressure that's built into your motor. And it's going to go ahead and put that back into the intake track and then burn any kind of those gases and things in there into the motor itself. A lot of people delete that, but this is an emissions-based thing. So when you do deletes, you're going to do that at your own, at your own will. Make sure that you're aware that you're removing a factory component. So that could be a negative thing depending on where you're from. What I'm very interested in is, why is it that these Chinese units fail? I've purchased a lot of random Chinese stuff over the years, and some stuff works, some stuff doesn't, but I want to know why it doesn't work. And so I'll probably have a video where I take this apart. I believe that Kern, everybody knows who that is on the b58 page, has done this, but I want to kind of see what it is myself. So it's probably all these components back here. So I'll probably take it to school and kind of hack into it and see why this one failed and how that can be prevented. And maybe these Chinese units can be decent. Maybe there's something you got to do to them to make it work. But at the time being, this unit sucks. I know it's like 180 bucks. You're going to have to fork over 800 bucks in a dealership if you want a factory one, or 600 bucks, whatever it goes for, because that's probably not going to work. Just to sum the video up, this is just a video to talk about if you had these symptoms and you're scared about a motor needs to be replaced, and in all reality, it's not the motor, it's just the valve cover. This is a job that I think that most people can do if you're mechanically inclined to an extent and you have really basic tools. It takes some time. With me not ever doing this, it probably took me about an hour of my time, taking my time and just referring to all data or some videos online. There's a lot of resources on there that you can utilize that I'll actually post on some of my future videos if you're interested. So I recommend, like I said, sticking with factory on the valve cover part. On my next video, I'm going to put everything back together, put the injectors back in. I have a Ross Racing PCV delete that is going to mitigate a lot of this stuff also in the future. And like I said, I'm going to drive on this. This is what Boot Mod Stage 2 with a couple of bolt-ons. And I'm going to drive like this for a week before I end up going over to my Omega 65. And we will do the install video in the future. So thank you guys for watching. If you have any questions, let me know.